Hi all. Right, third attempt to try and do this video. I tried to do it in one hit, but yeah, sometimes it just doesn't work. I kind of got lost. Possibility of age, I'm not quite sure. Anyway, cars and bits again, because we have got to do some final finishing on a bunch of stuff. We have powder coating, metal plating, anodizing, and a bunch of other stuff still to do. So basically there's a lot of parts I have to unbolt from the car. The aluminium diffusers are off. They had to have access panels put on them, which is why these things are on axle stands at the moment. Obviously due to the fact that the oil filter is buried down in there, and it's going to be a pain once we have the headers on there to get to that. We need to know how to access that from the bottom. So the initial part of the diffuser's here. You can see as I sort of marked out in blue pen. Basically we will be dropping in from the top these drop-in access panels. Now I don't necessarily need to pull this panel out from the floor, so basically I've only got one row of bolts now, and I can just slide it out the way to get to the filter, and onto this side here. It gives me more access to the accessory belt, because there's no way you're going to get access from that from the top. The panel in the middle between the two doesn't involve unbolting anything else other than itself, so that actually comes out quite easily. So you've got quite a bit of access there, but still to get to the filter we need these. Majority of this is 1.5. This is 3.1. So we have machined a step on it here. So when we cut that hole out, that'll just nicely drop into that step, and then we'll riv nut from this side here and countersink screw from there, and some lighting at the back of this, obviously, because I don't need a plate that's an 1/8 inch thick. So diffusers need to be powder coated. At the same time as the diffuser needed powder coated, we had to do some modifications to the front and rear frames. Rear frame, the diffuser mounts were just tacked in place, so now we've took it off. We've welded all around here, we welded all around there. There was the panels, excuse me. We had to give a bit of clearance here to some of the exhaust quick release clamps. So basically now I have filled them in, because when it went to the exhaust guy, I just cut them out just so we had no room, or had to have the room. We also needed some spring up for the rear clip. When you pull the lever and latch, we wanted the rear clip to just rise up enough that it didn't automatically lock itself immediately again, because the rear clip obviously has a reasonable amount of weight to it, and the shocks only really just assist you on the pivot. They don't really hold it up. So we needed 2 of these. So yet again, we had to manufacture that with a very weird, lovely filing hole. That's a nice tight fit. Now I don't want to push all the way down because it'll clip in. So now we've basically got 2 springs on the back bodywork. So the rear frame, oops, excuse me, that goes in there somewhere. There you go. The rear frame is now ready for powder coating. There's no other modifications to be done to that. That's ready for powder coating. So the radiator frame. Once we had the new pivots installed with these sections here, basically this bar used to come here and turn at an angle, come to here. As you can see with a sort of temporary front splitter. I've now straightened it because I don't need it to come to the back here, so it will be at the front. Plus the fact this area here, I want to be able to raise that up and put some splitter tunnels at the front. So the further back that is, then it interferes with any splitter tunnel that I want to put in. So we brought that forward. We've also welded a 1/2 inch tube to the frame there, and then I welded in a solid threaded steel insert into here, so we can now have our mounts for our brake ducts. So we have 2 bolts going through here, and probably countersunk in here, and then we'll have threaded nuts that are glued and flat into the diffuser from the bottom. So our front radiator frame is ready for powder coating, so that's done. Naturally go to the wing because it's here. I'm just doing a resin infusion for the end caps, so there's enough 1.3 millimeter thick carbon sheet there now to cut out 4 sections, because obviously I need shiny surfaces on both sides of the end caps. The end caps obviously have a electrical cable going through to them, because we have an LED strip at the back, so when you hit the brake light, there'll be 2 extra bright brake lights come up from the end of the wing. They won't be on permanently, it'll just be just purely for braking. I could turn them, because they will be on a separate, I could turn them to like flashing lights, in like fog or something, but we can play with that later. That's just software into the BDM. Yes, I can't remember. I think I did a video when we glued this together, but yeah, these are 3/4 inch thick aluminum plates that are lightened quite aggressively at the back, but allows them to give us a nice 3/4 inch surface kind of down here to glue the Bond wing to. We've now done the glue added, the epoxy glue added there where the two parts mate together. Obviously the edge is very simple, but that has to be a contour, so we sanded these down. As soon as I was doing the infusion panel for the end caps, there's a few little holes that just, well, little bubbles or air pockets, should we say, that was on the very edge of that particular panel. For some strange reason, I didn't quite manage to get enough vacuum to get it into that corner of the mold well. So, so we've just thrown a bit of wax on here just to stop the resin from going anywhere, and I've just dropped resin into those holes. This has got to be sanded anyway, as will probably any part that we make on here, because we've got to clear coat it. If we don't put a UV stable clear coat on top, eventually they will fade. So this will be sanded down to 600, and then we'll clear coat, as will those. So that's the rear wing. I'll explain in a later video why there's a large bolt on the front and a very small one at the back, but that's we can do some research on center of pressure, and I'll tell you where the downforce should be on a wing of any sort. Now the rear wing mounts, we welded up. Damn, stuff on that's a shame. The rear wing mounts, this section here is obviously an extruded tube. There's a couple of weld washers in there just to make up for the width. It does have a flat surface. You can just about see there the flat surface on there. So we welded this to the base. This base, obviously, I profiled before, basically is not flat. It is quite a contour, but that basically, when you put that on the bodywork, that sits nice and vertical. So we polished these. I was going to coat them, but to be honest, they came out so nice polished. I think I'm just going to have them ceramic, just like white ceramic coated, so clear, just to keep them clear. So that's the rear wing. That's the second mount that goes to the back there, for you to see. Easy to see later. Rear wing stability. No, that's not the wrong word. Rear wing bolted to the rear clip. This is now a 40 by 20 box frame. It's bonded to here. It's also filled between where the gap is, because obviously it's not, this back section is not completely flat, it's contoured. So basically now this is bonded and filled in the center with short strand. So basically this is solid to the rear clip now. There's holes in here. I've just covered it up with the gold stuff while I'm playing with the back here. But there's holes in there to mount the wing. Holes in there obviously for the catches. And then this back member here, when the catches are engaged, is about 1/4 inch away from the rear frame. And then I put a 6mm or 1/4 inch thick neoprene rubber section along here. So basically the downforce on the wing gets pressed into A, the catches, but B also to that frame across there. It sits on the back frame of the chassis, and basically any downforce created goes into there. As the eagle-eyed will have noticed, two things. A, it's gold, or should we say, yes, it's 24 karat gold. I lie. This stuff is like a fiberglass cloth with a thin layer of gold aluminum foil stuck to it. It does have a sticky back to the stuff. There's a thing there, but I ain't relying on that. No way in hell. So this is the material. It does have a sticky back, but I'm not relying on that to stay there. So we have used a good old Gorilla spray glue on the part, let that go off, and then stick it onto it. Obviously, unfortunately, you do get the seams through here, which is a bit of a shame, but that's what happens when you've got a perfectly flat piece of cloth and you're trying to stretch it, which it just doesn't stretch. So we've done it in sections to try and cover as much as we can. Still got some stuff to do. Probably going to paint this because it's a really awkward section. I'll paint that because that's aluminium, and I'll paint the rest of the frame black as well, and some of the back. It doesn't really need reflective heating. So yeah, we have our vent holes now cut into the bodywork. So the highest point of the car basically now is a grill in there to allow any heat when you're stationary to be vented out the clip. It is the tallest part of the car, so it made sense to put it there. We do have, I designed and sent to send, cut out a panel with louvers in, and then you just bend the louvers. Do I actually have that panel? Oh, there we go. Is that the old one or the new one? Oh, it is the new one. There you go. So basically we have a custom panel that'll sit like that, and basically they'll allow heat to be away from the clip. That also will be powder coated black, so exit out of there. So we've done the frames, done the thing, yeah, part of the stuff that we sent away, the raw steel pieces that went in here, which are for the adjust in situ camber adjusters. They're raw steel. They're raw steel for a piece that bolts onto here, which basically bolts to the drop link to the radiator frame. They needed rust proofing, and there's a couple of spacers for the back suspension. All of those are now at being nickel plated at one place. We had a bunch of aluminium stuff done last time, and these are the sensor bolts and front clip and the scavenge box for the turbos. But I missed a few things, because you always do. Even though I made a list, I still missed things. So the front mount, mounting point of the starter motor, when we machined a new one of those to index the solenoid lower, that wasn't done, and there's a few other silly little things that I missed. So we've got stuff at one place, I've got stuff at the anodizers, I'm going to be dropping stuff at the powder coaters, so we're making, you know, considerable progress, should we say. Yeah, that's about it. Apart from, literally, we do have an old Creality 5 Pro, which is the sort of, has a 350 by 350 base with a 450 height available for printing, which is now for sale. I've had my fun with it, and I've had my frustrations, which basically is all these kind of the cheaper end of the market units, albeit this was like $1,000. It's time to step up, and literally less than an hour ago, our friends from Bambu have finally released their H2D, which is almost the size of that one I've got, but it's a little bit smaller. It's 20 mil smaller on two of the axes, and the height's only 350, not 450, but to be honest, I never print anything that tall. So literally we've just got it out of the box. So we now have BambuLabs H2D, so, which theoretically is the king of the, I say cheap printers. They ain't cheap. This thing was, well, with all the accessories and everything else, it's close to $3.5 grand. But that, in comparison to the hobby stuff, is, you know, it's night and day. And if you look at the videos online for this stuff now, the YouTubers have had them about 2 or 3 months now, where they've been doing beta testing. This thing is the proverbial dog's bollocks for me, I think. So, yeah. So one job this afternoon, once I've come back from the powder coaters, is basically to install my new printer. So, but I'm dead happy about this. This should make things a lot nicer. It has dual printing heads, so I can print the support material from one thing and then print the actual part material with a completely different drive. You have multiple points to head in. These for the two heads. This is for a direct feed for if you want to print like a rubbery material. I can't think what it's called now. Yeah, anyway, if you want to print like gaskets and stuff, there's a third, simpler, straighter input for that. It has what's called an AMS, or it's an automatic material system. Basically, you can put 4 reels of material in that AMS unit. So basically, if you have a large print that might take a couple of days, you can print. You don't have to change the reel, because the machine will do it for it. I could wax on about this thing, but realistically, I've sort of treated myself, should we say, and this is going to be hopefully a shitload of an improvement. So excellent. That'll be my fun probably tomorrow, to be honest, and nothing else. But yeah, so the car's going on, finishing off all the silly little jobs. Still have to make the front splitter and side splitters, but to be honest, they are a lot simpler than I originally thought. I was going to make the front a little bit more complicated, but to be honest, I'm going to print the tunnels, obviously with my new machine. I will print the tunnels for the splitter tunnels, so it'll basically just a straight flat piece, so it makes it a little bit easier to produce. I might do molds for the contour shape for the next one, but for this one I just need to get it on the road. So we need to get on the road, we need to get some testing, we need to get this damn engine on a dyno, and then make some numbers, and then go out and do some road testing, figure out if everything we've done makes sense or if everything needs to be changed, and get some development on it. So there you go. Zoom around the workshop. So we've been reasonably busy, had other projects as well, but this is the main one. My daughter's rebuilding a bike, and we have the Audi or RS4 engine for the Audi on the bench now, completely stripped. So we're going to get that fully machined, and that'll be for the Lotus, obviously. So we're doing lots of stuff at the same time, but now having my daughter around basically allows me to do more than I did before. So anyway, I'll speak to you all soon.